Hello and welcome back, good people and new people. This is episode 4 of my training series, presented to us by Super Tech, because we want everybody to be a Super Tech, but really presented by me here at Service Tech Heating and Cooling to inspire technicians to be better technicians. My goal for this video is to help introduce some technicians into IAQ who aren't very familiar with it. The goal is to increase your IAQ sales by increasing your understanding of the sales. Once again, we can go back. It's not an episode. It's just a random video on sales that I did last week where we touched a little bit on sales. And I made a comment there about how we're not really salesmen, but we are. We don't sell people things just to sell them things. We sell things to people that they need to improve their quality of life and to make it better for them. So with that being said, it's our job to be observant. Because if you don't know what the customer's needs are, how are you going to present something to them that can actually help them? When IAQ, indoor air quality, first presented itself to me, I was working for another licensed contractor, and he was pushing IAQ products, and I absolutely didn't believe in the snake oil until I sold my first one. I was at a customer's house. She was miserable. I had high allergy problems between her and her baby. Her baby could not sleep at night. Talking red-eyed, very colicky, very screamy, was not a happy household that I was in. Sold this woman on a UV light and a 5-inch filter, did the install. 7 days later, I come back to a brand new house full of high positive energy with hugs, and I got gifts and treats and gratitude. It was an immediate difference for this family with how bad their allergy problems were and how much these specific IAQ products just absolutely changed their life overnight was worth it. That right there is why we're in IAQ. That is our customer. Okay? Not a random citizen who's got good health, who can breathe happily in his home, doesn't really care about the dust accumulation, these type of things. That's not who we're looking for. We are looking for the customer that has health concerns. Okay, this is our top number one customer. We're going to break them down, break them open, and talk about them a little bit more. So I kind of slid right into who is our top IAQ customer. What do they look like? How could I identify them amongst the sea of customers? Because IAQ isn't for anybody, right? Kind of like heating and cooling in general, conditioning a space, well, that's for everybody, right? Everybody needs conditioned space. But when it comes to IAQ, we have a very specific set of clientele that we are looking for. And we need to be aware of this. So we already kind of slipped up and said our first one, which was health concerns. This is health concerns in the homeowner, the customer, or their loved ones, their children, their family. One thing that's really good about this first category of customers that have health concerns is they're not shy about telling it to you. And, the customers on different levels about how shy or not they are about saying they have allergy problems. Typically it's the first thing they want to introduce to somebody when they meet them. Oh, ragweed's acting up today. I'm sorry, got my napkin out. But these physical symptoms of stuffy noses and red eyes and hard to breathe and a little bit cranky, these type of things should be indications that you're dealing with what allergies look like. Because that's really where it kind of boils into is we need to know, what does allergies look like for an average customer if he's not or she's not willing to tell me that we do have high allergy problems? How can I identify by looking at somebody and interacting with them in the real, out here in the wild, live action? How can I say this guy's got some serious allergy problems and serious enough that I'm going to talk to him about some filtration or some possible UV light situations? This priority customer of ours that has the health concerns are our favorite type of customers. This is the one that will make you feel like a super tech, okay? It will make you feel like you need to get a cape and put it on because you're making that much of an impact and that much of a change in somebody's life, which should be something that we're all striving for because we're in service industry, right? That's why I became a service technician. I love that gratitude of being able to provide a valuable service that somebody actually needed. That I like. And that's why I like my number one priority health concern customers. They want you there. They are looking for solutions. They don't even know what solutions look like. They just know that life sucks. They've been embracing the suck for who knows how long they've been suffering, and they don't even know what options are out there to help purify or scrub or clean their air. So it's our job to come in and see what those options look like and kind of present a plan. Next, we're going to talk about our next type of customer. Before we start talking about like what individual equipment do we have available and what kind of needs can those fix, we're just going to identify, like we always do in my sales video. First thing is, who are you selling to, right? Really the first thing is, what are you selling? In this case, we're selling IAQ. We see I put Aprilaire on the background here because I am an Aprilaire vendor. There are thousands of vendors out there selling thousands of different types of UV lights and 5-inch filters, from cheapest to most expensive. I'm a loyalist, okay? I choose to stand behind Aprilaire. I am familiar with them. Don't care how much their stuff costs. Whatever their cost is what it's going to cost my customer. That's the only equipment I'm going to sell them, is something with an Aprilaire name on it. That's just my business plan. That's just me. You can do however it is that you want on your own. Our second most valuable customer that we're looking for is those who have equipment concerns. And what does that look like in the real, right? Because sometimes a homeowner doesn't know, or a customer doesn't know that they have equipment concerns. It looks like this. And it even looks like this. It can have many faces. And, as the technician, boots on the ground, right, with the tool bag in your hand, you're the one that sees these internal symptoms. You're looking at the ductwork, which could tell us about, here lately we've had a lot of scammers come across online advertising ductwork, like they're solely duct cleaning companies. And they got all these pictures of loaded ductwork. It just looks filthy. They're saying, hey, on average, you need to have those ducts cleaned every 3 years. Whoa. Buddy, if you need your ducts professionally cleaned every 3 years, you need some IAQ. That's a window for you, right? You need IAQ. You need better filtration. I got my personal house. I got an Armstrong Air. My ductwork's 20 years old. It's spotless. Okay? I'm not a good candidate for IAQ. If a technician came down from my attic and tried to sell me on 5-inch filters on the basis that my equipment really needs it, right, that it's going to protect my investment, I'm going to call him a liar. There's not a lick of dust on my unit. Now, what happens when we have all this accumulation of filth and grime and dust and hair and stuff that gets inside of these blower wheels? Throws off the balance. It overheats the motors. We're running through parts. It's loading up in the evaporator coil, not letting the air pass all the way through. So I'm not getting a 20-degree split in the summertime like I'm supposed to. I'm getting like a 12-degree split, right? So like we're robbing ourselves. So in this case, it didn't matter about the health of the customer. Their health is fine, but the health of their equipment is not fine, right? And typically, this is a really good time. Let's talk about it because it's naturally right here. We're going to talk about the B word. That's bypass. And bypass is something a lot of techs don't care about, but my super techs do. We're always looking for signs and indications of bypass. This is where I go to my return air box, my blower cabinet, and I'm looking for that dust. I'm looking for that dirt buildup. I'm looking for where the dust has bypassed the filter and made its way into the system. These are key things that I'm looking for. 5-inch filters are beautiful for protecting all of that investment because with Aprilaire, at least, there's zero bypass and not at the cost of static pressure, right? Where it's just too much resistance because of the 5-inch filter. We're not dealing with that with Aprilaire products. I'm a real big believer in them. It just lip to lip, that whole section, no dust. You shall not pass. It's just not going to happen. Moving into our last customer, and we're going to kind of group these two together for a second because new installs is kind of a gimme. If you're running a quote for somebody, you might as well have an IAQ quote there as well. Different packages, like me, I do T1 package. That's a light and a filter. Okay, I believe in those two things wholeheartedly. T2, you got a humidifier, all the way up the line, these different size packages depending upon the needs of the customer. So I think it doesn't hurt to go a little over extra if you're already generating a quote, right? You're already typing up a quote. You might as well add some IAQ. I would say out of every 10 quotes that you're going to get, maybe 1 or 2 of those are going to come through as a sale. So when we're looking at cold call statistics, right, that's 20% of those guys are going to be extra 20% sales because you're putting them on the install ticket, right? So that is good to know. The last one is we have the health concerns, we have the equipment concerns. Now we're going to talk about property concerns. New big craze, especially in my area, is a lot of people building wooden houses with elaborate beautiful wooden everything inside of that house. Well, the problem is when the humidity levels drop, that wood starts to crack, right? So here they have tens of thousands of dollars in fancy woodwork in their brand new build, and the humidity levels are so low in the wintertime when the furnace is running that their wood is literally starting to shift and to crack. So these customers need something to protect their investment. It's just odd because it's not protecting their health and it's not protecting their equipment. Those two things are fine, but it is protecting the investment of their home so that we can monitor humidity levels. I'm going to take a pause here for just a second, do a regroup and a rethink, and kind of go back over. We've identified our customers. We've identified what it is that we're selling. And we've broken those potential customers into 4 different groupings. There was health, there was equipment, there was brand new install quotes, and there was property and wood concerns. Okay. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time breaking down these different products. What is available in IAQ? What do these things really even benefit for? And what would be some keywords from my customer? Right? What would be some keywords that I could happen to hear when I'm there on a service that would tell my brain to say, hey, you need to talk to them about zoning. You need to talk to them about sensor control for those hot spots she was complaining about. You need to talk to them about A, B, or C. Your job isn't to tell them A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Right? It's not your job. Now you're a salesman and they're wanting you out of there as soon as possible. Your job is to listen, to observe, use your ears, use your eyes. You have these things. Use these valuable tools and then present your customer with a cute little package to tell them about A and D because they fit the requirements that they could very greatly benefit from A and D, and this is about how much it's going to look like if you wanted that. I'm going to start in kind of a specific order to my own and kind of just in the order of I sell a lot of these or I see a lot of these already out there. Starting out the gate, we're talking about 5-inch filters. Now, this is kind of a no-brainer. We're not talking about what kind of customers would qualify for a 5-inch filter. Let's just talk about what it is real quick and how that works. If we were to take that filter out of the box and spread it out, we would see surface area, a lot of it. That's why it works so well, okay? Now, I've seen 5-inch filters that also allow bypass, okay? Customers spend a lot of money for a 5-inch filter setup and a 5-inch filter box right at the unit, and you get there and you can see the rim of it all the way around when you pull that filter out, that there is indeed still bypass. There is still stuff moving through. For me as an IAQ salesman, I've defeated the purpose. Why did I even sell them a 5-inch filter if it's not going to work for them like it needs to work? So, if you're selling a brand of 5-inch filters that you're still seeing bypass, you probably should look at a different vendor. Start shopping around to see who's got a better design out there and how much is that going to cost. If we're going to sell a product, we need to sell a product that actually works. Now, there's a couple places that we can install this 5-inch filter box, which you as a technician, these are things you need to be looking at before you even pitch the idea. Right? Where am I even going to put this 5-inch filter at? The majority of the ones that I see are right there at the unit. There's like a filter base. There's a box we'll have to put in there in between to sandwich it between. Case cover comes off, you pull the filter out, you put the filter in, everybody's happy. But let's say we have a customer that has a unit in an attic. That's a really crappy climb, right? Like an awful location that nobody really wants to get to. The farther away that 5-inch filter is, the farther away from their mind that 5-inch filter is. So Aprilaire has this new product line. It might not be new, but it's new to me. I wasn't aware of it until recently, and I'm just really knocking on the door to see what are the options here. To make 5-inch filters right here at the return grills, the filter grills that drop down in the ceilings. Why am I excited about that? I always said that, 5-inch filters right at the return on the unit is indeed protecting my equipment, but it's not doing anything for my ductwork. All that return all the way to the unit is still either A, unfiltered, or B, they're dealing with 1-inch filters or less than quality, like a MERV 7 filter or some nature like that. So me as a super tech, right, as a super professional, when I'm wanting to be a perfectionist on something, I really like the idea of taking my ceiling returns and putting a 5-inch filter right there. That is protecting the entire system from its feet to its head. It's all protected. Aprilaire has a very nice setup that you slide their filters into, and that's what seals the sides of it. It's not rocket science. They just made it to where it's sealed, right? And they have this right here for the return air filters in the ceilings. I really like that. I'm trying to get a better quote and a more realistic view of, is that going to be, can I offer this in different sizes, or do they only come in like one or two different sizes, right? And then you're looking at, can I just change it out because it's the same size? It's something really quick within a 20-minute job my younger technician can do, or is it something I'm going to have to cut the joists in the ceilings to make more space for there, then come in with some sheetrock to clean that up? How deep does that project go? We need to be thinking about these things when we're selling them. So 5-inch filters, do I believe in them? Absolutely. If a homeowner needs them for any of the reasons, I'd be glad to sell them one and be able to stand behind it. What's good for the 5-inch filters is it's a returnable item, meaning that you need to return to them, or they can go on their own and change it out, but at least yearly. Now, some houses are so tight that I have had customers where I go 2 years without changing them because there's no need to. Things are freaking spotless. Why would I change this filter that's going to cost my customer probably $80 to get a new filter in on them when they didn't need it? Some houses are every 4 or 5 months. They absolutely need a brand new 5-inch filter in there because it's loaded, it's corroded, it's doing its job super good. But the bottom line is that ethically, you've got to return there and change. Somebody does to change out that filter. That's a sell for us in the future, right? That's a return customer. We like that. That's a returnable item. They're going to keep coming back to us to get new filters. So we might as well try to sell them on a service if they're not already on a service. If they are already on a service, then they're just paying for the part, right? They don't have to pay for labor for someone to come change it out because it's going to be changed on their service. 5-inch filters, I'm a fan. Up next on my list is going to be my number 2 seller, which is UV lights. Now, a lot of times if our customer the requirements for a 5-inch filter, they're also meeting the requirements for the UV light, okay? So the UV light, and man, I should have talked about that because I believe the 5-inch filter they're claiming it'll catch down to like 0.01 or 0.02 microns of dust in a 5-inch filter. That's smaller than a hair on your head, right? So that's really good filtration. When we talk about UV lights, we're also talking about microns. We're also talking about microscopic spores and biological elements in the air. We can't really talk about the UV light without kind of accidentally talking about fresh air intake. You know, it's interesting to note that not a lot of people realize that the home that you're breathing in your air is the same home that was there 5 years ago, okay? We have no fresh air exchange, minus the times when the windows go open or when the doors are being opened and closed every day. There is this natural exchange of air. Do you think that's enough for an average home? Well, I'm also kind of an amateur mycologist in many areas, so I really speak air filtration and air exchanges. And no, it's not. If we have 2,500 square feet in a home of livable space, and that door is opening and only whooshing 400 CFM on an opening for 0.2 seconds of it being, do the math. The math isn't there. That's not a good exchange for the air. We need something that's going to run that can turn the entire volume of that air one time. And we also don't want that air that we turned on that fresh air intake to be the temperature it was outside. If you're in the middle of winter and you're trying to do a fresh air exchange, you can't bring that 10-degree outside air into the customer's home. They're going to freeze to death. That air still has to be tempered, but there is that exchange there. So, we're talking about living in a home that the majority of us live in that doesn't have fresh air exchanges. We're talking about evaporator coils, which are naturally a wet and dark environment, which is the breeding ground for most molds and spores and bacteria and viruses. They love and they thrive in these areas. So you put all those two things together and you got a nasty environment in our average typical house. Now, your average typical American has an immune system that can handle that sort of stuff. Your average typical unit has an immune system that can handle that sort of stuff with a good service plan. But you're going to see those customers when you walk up on the unit and the black mildew's from head to toe on it. And you open up the unit and the wires are nasty and corroded with all the filth of the buildup, and the unit's only 2-3 years old. And yeah, these are signs from the technician that, man, this lady needs a UV light in here. Right? So your job is to measure that space inside of that coil and see what is the dimensions of that coil, and will our 16-inch UV light even fit inside of there, or would we have to plan for a different option? UV lights are fast to install. You can be in and out of there in probably less than 15 minutes if you're getting good at it. They make different kinds. So we've got 120 volt ones and we've got 24 volt UV lights. Aprilair's got a 24 volt UV light. I like that. Put a fuse in line with it, call it a day. And get in and get off the job while still providing a quality product for your customer. So UV lights. They claim, and I have seen the science, I have seen the videos, the documentation, and the evidence is there, that a UV light on a coil will kill mold spores. It will kill viruses. It'll kill the cold virus, flu virus. It kills a lot of different things just by being in that UV light. There was a lot of complaints that I investigated myself personally, talking about, UV lights after they were on the customer's coil for 3-4 years was eating away at the coil inside, disintegrating it, much like we would see on a condenser outside where customers let their dog urinate on it forever, right? Just eats away the copper. I don't believe that. Never seen it in the wild, and I've been on several units that are several years in of having a UV light installed. I have seen no deterioration in the physical. Now, these new aluminum coils, right, for this new equipment that they're pushing now, who knows? That's going to be that's new data that I don't think a lot of people's talking about. There's probably not going to be a difference in a chemical change between the reaction between the UV light and the coil, but time's going to tell there. That's something that I'm looking for, is if I have an aluminum coil and I installed a UV light on it, I'm keeping an eye on it for the first couple years to look for that kind of reaction, because we're used to dealing with copper coils. These two products, both the UV light and the 5-inch filter, can really benefit, I would say, more than 80% of our clientels. That's a big chunk, right? That no gimmicks, no snake oil. And let's talk about, what do you mean by that? Why are you saying you don't believe in all the IAQ products? Because kind of I don't. There's an ionizer everybody's pushing really heavy that I don't stand behind. I don't believe in that witchcraft, okay? The science hasn't sold me on it yet. So because of that, you'll never see me sell an ionizer. I've installed them in customers' homes before, and it didn't remedy no problems for them. They were still had an issue until we got them into that 5-inch filter and the UV light setup. That's why, for my company, that's in its own package. That's a T1 IAQ package from Service Tech Heating and Cooling, is a UV light and a 5-inch filter system. Baseline. I think everybody could super benefit, and not just everybody, but everybody's equipment too. And when you're looking at an investment homeowner and he's dropped $7,000 to $9,000 on new equipment, he's probably going to want to invest that, protect that investment and extend the life of his unit, because it's not getting corroded and built up with dirt. Now we can start to see 15 to 20 years come out of these newer equipment. My third most popular IAQ item, and favorite because it's a real-world fixer, is zoning sensors. Aprilair, they've got some indoor temperature sensors, outdoor temperature sensors. They're wireless. They're fairly inexpensive. Of course, you're going to have to get the controls to back that up. They got a nice S86 thermostat that looks really clean. It's already Wi-Fi and programmable. They can get on their phones and look at some things, make some changes. If I'm pushing IAQ, you bet your buttons, I'm also pushing an S86 thermostat. I'm a fan of them. As far as controls are concerned, it's as easy as a Honeywell T6, right? They're very easy to install, and they've already got landing zones for humidifiers and temp sensors, anything like that. They're already set up for IAQ is kind of what I'm getting at. So, and that's another thing a lot of people don't think about. Once we get past the UV light that don't need controls, that's an always-on situation. Once we get past the 5-inch filter, that don't need controls. That's an always-on situation. But now that we're moving beyond that into IAQ, and we're talking about hot and cold spots in the customers' houses, usually when you're given a quote for equipment exchange or you're there for a service, they're going to tell you, I'm always sweating to death back there in the back room, but freezing to death here in this room. Hot and cold spots. We can get these sensors. And once again, with Aprilair, I can do several sensors, right? I can do 3-4 different sensors, and I can average out the temperatures of all of those living spaces to make my customer more comfortable. That's going to be something that they're going to notice. So that's a real obvious thing, is the hot and cold sensors. how it's going to average out the read for the thermostat. So instead of the thermostat location being the only place it's sensing temperature from, saying, hey, I've met my demands, it's also going to read that back room and say, well, I haven't met my demand back there, keep her rolling. So that's going to reduce our hot and cold spots, which is going to even out our temperatures. Sliding into our last topic really is humidifiers. Okay, I don't push a lot of dehumidifiers. I don't have a lot of wealthy clients like that at this current time, so I don't see a lot of them, but I do see a lot of humidifiers. Why would a customer need a humidifier? Well, a couple reasons. It brings us back. Number one, are they health? Number two, number four, are they property and wood concerned? I know, like my son, when I'm burning the fireplace in the wintertime, if I don't have a humidifier going, he gets nosebleeds. Anytime the humidity drops below 35, 38, it's got nosebleeds and things going on. Our furniture and wood furniture responds the same way. So having a humidifier is a fairly inexpensive, easy to install. I wouldn't say super easy. You're dealing with water lines. There are a couple things you need to pay special attention to here. But installing a humidifier, a whole home humidifier, it's fantastic. It comes with a little sensor that puts in the ductwork. Once that humidity drops below a certain point, fan kicks on, and so does that humidifier, and it humidifies the whole house to maintain humidity. It's got a landing spot on the S86, so you just plug it right in, right? And you can read everything from right there. And that's what I like about this new tech-in, is being able to get on my phone and read data. That's some next level stuff. That's what I want to see more of. So I'm trying to sell more equipment that gives me, as the technician, the super tech, that type of control. Imagine the amount of money I can save my customer if I can log onto my phone on the way to the call and look at data, right? Superheat, subcool, suction pressure, head pressure. It's all right here. CFM, how is it blowing? Wow, those numbers are really low. Must be something stuck at that fan. Oh, man. And like being able to already diagnose before I get there, I can keep my billing low. I can be on and off and look like a super tech. It was in my first 3 checks I found it, because I'd already been going through my head on the drive of what could it be versus the symptoms that I'm hearing. And we all know as technicians, a lot of times we get really awful symptoms from the customer. We don't get any information, right? And it kind of has to build off our own history. Like, well, it's 4 degrees outside. I got a brand new house built. They're saying they ain't got no heat. Most likely got a 90% furnace in there, and it's froze up in an uninsulated attic. And sure enough, there it is. So like that guesswork is healthy. It's important to be a super tech, man, to be the best technician. And I truly believe there's nothing wrong with competition, that you should want to be a better tech to the guy to your left, a better tech to the guy to the right. When a random person says who's the best tech in the region of the town, you should want that to be your name or your company. And I think if we can all get that mentality, we're going to really change the market out here for heating and air and push out all these bad contractors that have gotten people to just sign off on their papers so that they can go take a test when they ain't got no knowledge in our trade or our industry. So all in all, better techs is going to be better for everybody involved. That's my personal opinion. That's all I have about IAQ, because I don't really want to talk about dehumidifiers, but let's do it anyways because it's part of IAQ. Dehumidifiers, something that we're going to use in the summertime. We all know that when our unit is in air conditioning mode, it's in cooling mode, it is actually a dehumidifier, right? We are wringing the moisture out of the air. This is what makes condensation. This is how my unit pees, okay? But on a typical average house and system, in the summertime, depending on where you're living at, the humidity levels are still high, higher than what we would like them to be. So a 70 doesn't really feel like a 70, right? Our temperature senses are a little bit off because of the humidity in the house. When we bring a dehumidifier in, it does the exact job, opposite job as the humidifier, and it extra wrings that water out so that we can maintain a lower humidity point in a cooling mode. How does this benefit the homeowner? Well, this benefits the homeowner because their unit's actually going to be running less. They're only dialing it down to 70 because that's what it takes for them to feel that cool feeling on their skin in the middle of summertime. If they can now, on their own choice, actually dial it up to 74 because they're freezing to death at 70, right? Then they saved on the usage of their equipment because their equipment's obviously running less to maintain a 74-degree house. That is comfortable for the homeowner. And then, that comfort level is completely dependent on the homeowners. every person's different. Some people like it hot. Some people like it cold. Some people like it in the middle. That's why we gave them controls, to be able to dial that in to find their personal comfort level. And, I think that a lot of my job is making sure that the customer can find that personal comfort level at the most effective cost. That's all I got for you guys. Be good at it. Join me next week. We're going to be talking about mini splits. I consider myself to be somewhat of a mini split specialist. We're going to be breaking them down, talking about what I see the most of, what are my most common calls on mini splits, how do I troubleshoot those things, how do I change the blowers out in them, etc., etc., etc. So subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friend, grab your tech book, come on over and ask me some questions too, so that I can also kind of drop some podcast content on it about that particular question, and we can crack it open a little deeper. Goodbye.